Good morning to everybody. How you doing? Hope all is well. Keep up the beautiful work. Be'ezrat Hashem, Yitbarach v'Yitromam. Inshallah, good things for everyone. May we hear good news. It wasn't easy going to a regular shaharit this morning with a regular anna. May we have many parties, that there's many Hishems. May all the hostages say Hagomel today. Please, Hashem, let them come home. The soldiers and all of Am Yisrael will only have good things. And yalla, we could really use the Mashiach. Hajj Ba'ah, Bezrat Hashem Yitbarach. We are speaking about Mashiach. Exactly, that's what happened to the brothers in this week's parasha. We all know the story already. Last week's parasha, the story took place. Why does this week's parasha, Vayigash, start off with Yehuda narrating the story? He starts to say, we had a brother, you told us to come, blah, 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 father. Everyone was there. Everyone saw it. Why would he have to repeat the story? And our rabbis tell us he was not talking to Yosef, even though it seems like he was talking to Yosef. He was talking to Hashem. He was really referring to Hashem. Hashem, the entire story makes no sense. Please, Hashem, what's going on here? This is what happened. This is what happened. What is going on here? And at that moment, once you throw everything on God and you can't understand what's going on and you know there's nothing you could do and you say it's all Hashem, at that moment comes the salvation. And that's when Yosef, he himself revealed himself to the brothers, and he said the famous words, Ani Yosef, Ha'od Avi Chai. And our rabbis tell us it was as if Gehenna opened up underneath the brothers. That's how scared they were. There are some that say they passed away at that moment and they got resurrected. They had their little Mashiach ben Yosef. Just like when Mashiach comes, everyone's going to get resurrected. Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach. Some say also, like we said, Shimon already knew, Benjamin already knew, but they were petrified. You think they were petrified from Yosef? Absolutely not. When you have great people like the brothers of Yosef, and we gave the disclaimer so far every single week, saying we can't look at them like regular people. The greatest Chacham and the greatest Sadiq that anyone could ever imagine doesn't come close to one of the Shivatim. That's how holy they were. They were the Shifteh Ka. They're the future, the pillars of Am Yisrael. So what were they scared of? You have people in our generation, when something scary happens, they don't flinch because they say, I'm scared of Hashem and I'm not scared of anything else. Yishtabach Shemo. Imagine the brothers. So why were they scared? The answer is because they didn't have an answer for Yosef. Yosef says it's him, Yosef. He says that Oh Ha'od Avi Chai, is my father still alive? What does that mean? Our rabbis tell us he was insinuating that how come you didn't care about daddy then? Why only now? And how Batya says they couldn't answer the Yosef, and because of that, they were scared for the next world. If there's a human being that you don't have an answer to, a human being doesn't live forever. A king doesn't have all the power in the world, even though they're powerful. And they couldn't give him an answer. How much more so? In the next world, there's no sketching the system. And when they ask a question, what are we going to do? We should live and be well. And Hamadia says, just like Yosef said their reprimandment from what they themselves did, Hamadia says that's the lesson we learn over here. He says you have some people, they when it comes to giving tzedakah, Baruch Hashem, our community are known to give beautiful tzedakah. Inshallah, everyone should always be from the givers. But sometimes you have a guy in Warsaw, Wisconsin, where Someone asked for tzedakah, and he gives them a quarter. He said, "You know what? Times are a little rough. They're a little pinching. Yalla." But then for dinner, he could go out instead of going to Holy Schnitzel. He goes out to a high roller restaurant, and the bill just for him and his wife is a good old 800. How you doing? That's without the tip and without the dessert. How you doing? So yes, we Hashem wants people to enjoy, but a person can't say he's pinching pennies when it comes to doing something good, and then all of a sudden when it comes to going out for dinner, and Hawadiyah goes through all the examples. Unfortunately, you have people in a rush from synagogue, so they leave early, no problem, but then they meet somebody on the corner and they're hecking and talking. Hawadiyah says, Hashem, the one who created you, you're rushing away, but the people you can hecky with, but thank goodness everyone we know is only does beautiful things, Baruch Hashem. But that's why the brothers were scared, because they couldn't answer Yosef. And in the next world, we're not going to have answers after 180 years old. You guys are all perfect, but people from far away won't have answers to answer them in the next world. And Yosef, of course, calms them down. And he said, relax. I'm not going to punish you. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be perfect. Yalla. And he says the famous words, Lemechia Shilachani Hashem. And our rabbis tell us, we know Hamavadyah is in the same umbrella as Yosef HaSadiq. And if it was only me, you don't have to take it. But it's also the great Chachamim of Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Mazuz. He should live and be well. When Yosef says, Lemechia Shelahani Hashem, Hashem sent me to give you Parnasah, to sustain you, etc. The abbreviation, the word Lemechia, is an abbreviation for all of Chacham Ovadia Yosef's books. Yishtabach Shemo. He wrote a book, Leviat Hen, that's the Lamed. He wrote a book, Maor Yisrael, that's the Mem. He wrote Hazon Ovadia, that's the Het. Lemechia, he wrote a book, Yabia Omer, Yehavedat, and Halichot Olam, and that's alluded to in the word. Hashem sent Yosef to give us spiritual sustenance, not only physical. Yishtabach Shemo. And Yosef tells his brothers, Daddy's not going to believe you. However, you have to tell him the last Divrei Torah that he told me. Imagine Yosef was in prison for 12 years. He's gone from the house for 22 years. He did not see his father. And he went through the worst of the worst. Imagine someone in a dungeon with rats running around like the old movies. That's what kind of prison it was. You think that the Divrei Torah that his father told him should be the last thing on his mind. But yet, of course, that's the first thing on Yosef's mind. And he tells the brothers that Daddy walked me out of the house and he told me the halacha of Egla Arufa. When someone leaves your home, you have to escort them and make sure they get safe. And that's why in the Torah it says, Vayaret Agalot. What does Agalot have to do with anything? He saw the Divrei Torah of the Egla Arufa, and that's how Yaakov knew. And that was Yosef. He told him, only Yosef and Yaakov knew about that Divrei Torah. Now, don't forget, Yaakov is 130 years old, and he still remembers 22 years prior the Divrei Torah that he taught the son. When someone starts forgetting, God forbid, they forget, but some people will never forget how much money is in the mattress, where the money is hidden, which bank accounts. In the old days, we would have said Swiss bank accounts. They don't forget. However, over here, because the Torah is precious to Yosef, to Yaakov, they did not forget. Yosef also told them, do not fight on the way. because each one's going to say, you did it. No, you did it. He said, just go and bring daddy. And it says, Yosef, that besides giving the message of the Divrei Torah, of the Eglah Arufah, it says he sent him mituv Mitzrayim. And our rabbis tell us, what is tuv Mitzrayim? Rashi says, fine old wine, because the elder people, the older people who are, might be, you hear the shocking news. He's 130. He's sitting on the floor for 22 years crying. The news could be shocking. He sent wine for Yaakov to stay calm. Our rabbis ask, do you really think that someone like Yaakov Avinu, whose picture is on Hashem's throne, Yaakov Avinu is not interested in wine? Yaakov Avinu, who didn't see his son for 22 years, crying. The moment he sees him, he says Kiryat Shema. Obviously, someone on that level isn't interested in wine. And our rabbis tell us the message from Pirkei Avot, that it says, Al tistakel bekankan ela b'ma sheyesh bo. Yesh kankan yashan male hadash. Kankan hadash male yashan. As they say in America, don't judge a book by its cover. When you have a bottle of wine, it could be the worst, cheapest wine, and the bottle is a Bijenin fancy bottle, and then you could have the greatest tasting wine, and the outside doesn't look like much. Yosef was telling his father also a message. I might look like a new bottle. I look like I have a new. I'm part of the atmosphere where I am. I'm wearing Egyptian clothing. I'm wearing the clothing of a king. I'm in a palace. I have all wealth. Yes, Yosef was saying the bottle might look all new, but the inside is malay yashan. He said, I still have the traditions of you, etc. And that's zikenim nohahemenu. The wisdom, the wise people, when they hear that about their child, that's what comforts them. And that's what makes Yaakov be able to be calm in the story. The brothers head out to Yaakov. And our rabbis tell us as well, we know the story with Serach bat Asher. Serach bat Asher, the daughter of Asher, she had Ruach HaKodesh. And because she had Ruach HaKodesh, she knew Yosef was alive. She knew that Yosef revealed himself. And now it's time to make her, to let Yaakov know what's going on. And you can't tell an older man, shocking news, as we mentioned, at the age of 130, she takes out a harp, she starts singing a song that Yosef's alive and he's the king of Egypt. And she's when a person hears something, even though they might not think it's true, but you get excited. There's a prank out there. Of course, we don't know from these things. Don't try it at home. But some people, when they send a Zelle, so you get a text message to your phone that you got a Zelle. So there are wise guys out there. They'll take that text message, they'll amend it, and they tell the guy you just got 10 grand to your account, and the guy's excited, and he goes, and unfortunately, it's fake news. How you doing? When we hear good news, inshallah, we should only hear true good news, but it makes a person in a good mood. And she started to cheer up Yaakov Avinu. And because she started to cheer him up, he got in a better mood. He knew it wasn't true. And he goes over to her and says, thank you. He kisses her. He takes his hand, puts it on her head. It's his granddaughter. And he says, you should live forever for trying to cheer up your grandfather. And the words of Yaakov, the words of anyone are powerful. The words of anyone come to manifestation, and especially Yaakov Avinu. And she ended up living forever. She lived to tell the Am Yisrael hundreds of years later with Moshe Rabbeinu, Yosef, in next week's parasha, passes away, and he tells his children, don't let anyone redeem you from Egypt until they tell you the password. And who knew the password? They had the bondage for 80 years. It was misery. Who's going to remember the password? But she was alive. She saw Yaakov Avinu. She saw Yosef. She sees Moshe now, and she tells Am Yisrael, yes, that is the password. Moshe is the real McCoy, and hence here we are. Moshe took us out, and Hashem's going to get a shaliach, a messenger, to take us out of this galut. The brothers get to Eretz Israel. They tell Yaakov everything. He didn't believe them until they said the Divrei Torah, and now he has to go to Eretz Mitzrayim. He brought a korban to say thank you, and that's what we have to do right when we hear good news, whatever it might be. Saying Mizmor LeTodah all the time is a beautiful, beautiful segula. You make a sale, Mizmor LeTodah. If someone's not feeling well and they feel better, Mizmor LeTodah. When you say thank you, Hashem gives you more to be thankful for. Yosef can't come to Eretz Israel. He's running the whole country. So Yaakov goes to Mitzrayim. But Yaakov knows you never move into a neighborhood without having a synagogue. You have people far away in Neverland. They're interested in the sunlight, which is nice. They're interested in this, in nice neighbors, etc. And then they say, oh, it's not, the synagogue's not that close, but at least we got everything. Yaakov sends Yehuda to go build a Beit Midrash, a Beit Knesset for Am Yisrael. That's what we look for. You can't move to a neighborhood where there's no synagogue. Thank God our community, there's synagogues all over the place. Yishtabach Shemo. In Jersey, in Brooklyn, everywhere. Look how much our community loves to pray and to make minyanim. Yehuda goes ahead, he builds the knis, and Yaakov Avinu comes to Eretz Mitzrayim, and he's ready to meet his son that he mourned for 22 years. Imagine sitting on the floor crying for 22 years, and now he's getting ready to see him. And as we said above, he says Kiryat Shema. Why did he say Kiryat Shema? There's a few answers. Answer number one, simple. The time for Shema came. And when you have to do a mitzvah, I don't care what you're doing, you do the mitzvah. But there's another answer. We should live and be well. What is a person supposed to think when they say Shema? That we love Hashem with all our life, with all our heart and soul. We'll even give up our life for Hashem. That's how much we love Hashem. That's what a person is supposed to think. Yaakov Avinu, he wasn't happy the past 22 years. He felt like if he would give up his life for Hashem, he's not giving up a quality life. He didn't feel that he's accomplishing Kiddush Hashem as much as he would have liked. But now that Yosef's back in his life, he has his life back. He has everything. And he still said, Hashem, now that I have my life 100% back, I will give up my life for you, Hashem. And that's another reason why he said Shema. And our rabbis tell us Yaakov is going to Mitzrayim. We know that if a person has a desire from the Yetzer Hara, there's three things to do, right? We go to the Beit Midrash, you learn Torah. Moshel the Beit HaMidrash. Im Paga Bechad Menuval Zeh. Hella, they made a song out of it and all the kids are singing. I don't know if they know what the words are, but they're singing. You bring him to the Beit Midrash. If that doesn't work, then you say Kiryat Shema. And if that doesn't work, then you think about a funeral. We should live and be well. Yaakov did all three because he's going to Mitzrayim. He built the Beit Midrash because, like we said, Moshel the Beit Midrash. Then it said he said Shema, and then he says Amuta Hapam, and he thought about the day of death. So the desires of Egypt should not penetrate to Yaakov, and that's why Yaakov did all three. Imagine he's 130 years old and he's still worried about the Yetzer Hara. As our rabbis tell us, a person can never trust themselves until after 180, because you never know. The Yetzer Hara, he's called a fool. Why is he called a fool? Because he turns people into fools, unfortunately. And Yaakov, after he said Shema, he hugs Yosef, and of course, Yosef brings him to Paro. And our rabbis tell us a huge lesson from the story with Yosef and Yaakov coming to Paro. Number one, only 2 years passed in the famine. It was supposed to be 7. Some say even more was supposed to be the years of the famine. The 7 good years were over. The 7 bad years began. They were 2 and change into the bad years. But what happens is, because Yaakov came into Egypt, the famine stops. He blesses Paro, and he told him that every time you go to the Nile River, the water will come up to greet you. In Egypt, it doesn't rain. How do they get watering their entire nation, irrigating? And the answer is they had the Nile River, and everyone built channels to their fields, and the Nile irrigated the whole Egypt. If it's low, then it can't irrigate. However, every time he walks to the Nile River, it gets higher, the whole thing overflows, and it will irrigate the entire Egypt. And even though the famine was over, however, still it takes time for things to grow, and they still need food. And as we know in the parasha, Yosef, the people ran out of the money, and they're still selling that they need to buy food. They gave their animals, they gave themselves, they gave their bodies, even, and their property to Yosef. Yosef accumulated all the money of the entire Middle East and then some. But our rabbis tell us that there was a conversation between Paro and Yaakov. It's not in our rabbis, it's in the Torah. However, there's a little discrepancy that we have to understand. Paro asks Yaakov, how old are you? And Yaakov said 130. Paro said, you look older than that. Imagine, what does a guy that's 130 look like? And Paro says, you look even older than 130. And Paro says, I can't believe you're only 130. And Yaakov starts to complain about his life. He said, because he had a hard life. He had the story of Esav, he had Dinah, he had Yosef, and he went through all those troubles. So it had a toll on his health, and hence he looks even older than 130. Our rabbis tell us that Yaakov, we should live and be well. He lost a year of his life for every word that he was saying of complaint. He was supposed to live till 180, and he ended up living till 147, which is next week's parasha. And our rabbis ask a question. Batya asks, if you count the words, they don't equal to 33 words. So why did he lose 33 years? And the answer is, he lost years from Paro's question. Paro asked him, how old are you? Why are you so old? And he lost years for Paro's question. So Batya asks, who told Paro to ask? It's not because of Yaakov. Why should Yaakov Avinu lose years all because of Paro's question? And the answer is because Yaakov, on his level, a human being cannot fathom the dust under Yaakov Avinu's feet. On Yaakov's level, he walked in a little, ya Rabbi, this hurt me, this hurt me. As the older people, everyone should have good health. They might sit down, ya Rabbi style. Because Yaakov walked in like that, he caused Paro to ask. So because he caused, he also lost years from his life for the question of Paro. If that's Yaakov Avinu on his level, who coined the phrase, Katonti Mikola Hasadim, no one appreciated Hashem more, and he still, unfortunately, lost because of his seemingly complaining. How much more so the people out there far away that they complain. Some people aren't happy with this, they're not happy with that. And God forbid, if a person sighs, our rabbis tell us, one sigh brings another sigh. One thank you to Hashem brings another thank you. We have to learn to always be positive and think of what we do have instead of thinking what we don't have. And Hashem will just give us more and more. There's a lot more to talk about, but unfortunately, time does not allow us. I hope everyone has the greatest day. Keep up the excellent work. Hashem be with you. May we hear good news this weekend and every weekend for Am Yisrael. Take care, enjoy. Shabbat Shalom. All the best. Bye.